Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. My name is Linda. Come on in, the kettle's on. It's so good that you've made it. I'm more pleased than you could ever know that you're here.
Me too, and I'm Bob.
And here we are, zooming into 2024.
It's got a great ring to it.
It does, Bob. This week, I wanted to talk a little bit about truth bombs. We don't always want to know the truth, do we? Depending on what it is. Sometimes it's just all too much.
Oh, it can be too much.
Correct, Bob, it can. We even have sayings that ask, like, for example, do you want the good news first or the bad news?
Oh, yes, the good news, thanks.
Sometimes the bad news perhaps could contain truths that we truly believe we can't face. Alexander Pope was quoted as saying, "He who tells a lie is not sensible of how great a task he undertakes, for he must be forced to invent 20 more to maintain that one." There is the line of thinking that some truths are best unrepeated, depending on who and why, as it can cause damage and pain that can sometimes be deemed unnecessary. By the same token, one lie has the power to tarnish 1,000 truths.
Oh, that's the worst.
It is, Bob. If you have ever been lied to and you know it, it's a distinct feeling, isn't it? You sense it. And if you've had stories told about you that are dipped in lies, that's another level of disgrace. I've come to know that if a lie is told enough, it becomes the alleged accepted truth. Then it remains forever a lie. There is an understanding which I found true. When your name is dragged through the mud, it kind of sticks.
I have a joke.
Okay, let's have it.
What do you call an angry carrot? A steamed veggie.
You know what? That wasn't too bad, Bob. But it seems to be that if someone tells the lie enough, they even start to believe their lie as well, to the point that they don't know how it all came about. The truth becomes lost, and mostly forever. How dumb.
More like lazy.
But are we? That repeating of the lie is now regurgitated into truth.
I'm calling bullshit.
You said bullshit.
I know, yeah.
Not many of us question the validity of such statements when someone flat out lies. And as Mark Twain said, a half-truth is the most cowardly of lies. Alfred Tennyson said, a lie that is half-truth is the darkest of all lies. So, if you're like me and have had the experience of having fairly ordinary stories told about you, and they have been repeated enough so that they have become someone's truth, it has become what the liars have orchestrated, a flat-out lie that is now believed as the truth. But only in some, with some people, of course. Not everyone believes, flat-out lies when they know the truth. Augmented truth, it's a bit unfortunate that here we are in 2024 and no further along in terms of, wait a minute, to openly question, who told you that? Were you in the room? We must consider the source.
Tomato sauce?
No, Bob. Consider who told you the gossip. If we don't intelligently consider the source of the so-called truth information, then it steamrolls out of control. People. Then what can make the lie even darker when people you took for granted as to knowing you well enough then take sides, and in the end the better engineered lie becomes the more believable one, and if you're not there to defend yourself, it becomes so that people don't want anything to do with it or you. And I'm with them. I have never wanted anything to do with stories that hurt people, but it is tricky if you have been dragged through the mud, and then all that remains are the lies. Because that happened to me in a major way. A number of decades ago, I learnt a swift and targeted lesson, and that was and is, I don't believe everything I'm told. I'll nod attentively, and depending on who you are and what the situation is, I'll smile in all the right places. But I have learned, as I'm sure you have too, that most things are tarnished and embellished to suit the storyteller's motives and agenda.
I have a joke.
Oh, well, come on then.
I was having dinner with Gary Kasparov, the world chess champion.
Yes.
And there was a Czech tablecloth, and it took him 2 hours to pass the salt.
You know what? That's not too bad, Bob. If I know the person that gossipers are talking about, I am usually the person that will say, it doesn't sound like anything they would ever do or say. I do question bullshit stories. Liars do not like their bullshit questioned.
You said bullshit twice.
That's right, Bob. They will do all they can to get you on side, but it never works. It has a scent of its own.
What does? Bullshit.
I mean, bullshit. Okay, I think that's too all. But it has to be said, lies do have a scent of their own. There's a sense that something incorrect has been uttered when someone's actually lying, and a truth bomb is never welcome. If you're a truth bomber, you may feel isolated, but hey, the upside is you're not in the company of the lowest of the low and people who are very ordinary in terms of inventing stories that destroy people in small to major ways. I take much solace in the fact that they don't have me in their life and will never again. So we must be cautious of the half-truth. You may have gotten hold of the wrong half. Moving on as we must, that subject is a series of rabbit holes, and depending on how much energy you've got, you might lose years of your life looking for the so-called truth. And my God, that is the truth, isn't it? You know what? Don't go looking, and have a little applause for not. Thank you. Thank you very much. The truth in itself is subjective, and ultimately you have to define and know your own truth. I think that's the absolute bottom line. That is the best lesson, so worthwhile and deeply personal, knowing your truth. That is the only thing that matters after the fact. When you don't give a donkeys and you have your truth, that is the ultimate knowing yourself, know your worth.
And add tags?
Now, obviously, you listened to that podcast last week.
Yes, I did.
It is a fairly naive, unrealistic kind of handing over your power hugely to believe that perpetrators will be honest with you, and anyone that is friends with the perpetrator, the liar, will stand strong for their lies. Better head off into your life. It is a toxic mess to deal with liars. And what about if it's burning holes in your brain juice for the need for the truth and the justice, and you just want to get closure? And again, you've really got to look to yourself for that. I hope you can know you will lose so much of your life to direct your energy towards them, and your energy is a 3-course meal to them. Don't do it. That's exactly what they want. Let's suppose you're telling yourself the truth about yourself. No embellishments allowed. That in itself is an acquired discipline if you're not already practicing. I mean, how honest are we with ourselves, truly? How many truth bombs do we drop on ourselves instead of some narrative that we hope someone will believe and save us or hear us? That is asking the perpetrator, the liar, to own up to their scammy, cowardice ways. Ain't going to happen. At all costs, they must have their story believed, and they are relying on you to react to prove their story as being somehow correct. People, I have found, in general, are so lazy about getting their ducks in a row about information about others. That is, it's just easier for them to believe anything. They know you well enough to predict what you will probably say or do. Meanwhile, they've set it all up that you'll react this way, and they somehow end up making themselves look like the victim. I mean, they're pretty evil, man. And over time, I lost faith in people because I was pulled into something that was so filled with lies and untruths that I just really, literally did not know where to begin. Ultimately, it did cost me my naivete. I had to wake up and get up with and keep up with my own evolvement. Shit fights do that. Ultimately, I was and still remain so grateful because it forced me to sit up and listen and participate in my own life consciously. And yeah, I reckon, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Rather than allowing things to just pass by and wonder later what the hell happened, if you tell the truth to yourself about another person, you can never really know the absolute truth, their truth, whatever that may be. It is only your perception. You may well be right, but you may not have all the data or what they want you to see and believe. You can only go by what you see and have discussed with them, and even then, it still could be a string of lies. #TruthBombs.
I got a joke.
Well, let's have it then.
A man keeps throwing yogurt and milk at my house. How dare he?
Not bad at all. Truth is very tricky. So telling the truth about yourself to another means that you're being honest with yourself, and there is an element of truth that you are happy to share. By the same token, depending on who you are talking to, you may only be giving them what they want to hear. So if you break it all down, as I've done here, albeit briefly, there are so many factors involved in the so-called bloody truth. I have found the truth a little disappointing, quite frankly. See where I'm going with all of this? What we consider our truth is worth a little bit of examination. How full of holes is our truth, the stuff we do not want anyone to know? And here we have a saying by Don Miguel Ruiz: do not expect people to tell you the truth, because they also lie to themselves. You have to trust yourself and choose to believe or not to believe what someone says to you.
You know what a sexy word is?
Tell me, Bob.
Integrity.
Oh, swoon. Yes, Bob, I totally agree. I totally agree with you on that one, Bob. I think of lies that I've heard others spout, them not knowing that I know the person or the actual truth. And in that moment, I could have died of terminal disappointment, because I thought that I knew that person well too. But the truth was, I was onto them, and they appeared to have zero idea just how deep they were in their lies, because at the end of the day, it is their inventions, their incorrect versions of events. Then the day will come that they find out that I or you knew all along, and you know what happens in that instance. They just tell themselves a bunch of lies and keep on with their little carry-on. Honestly, they could rent themselves out as laxatives. No, really, laxatives. Yeah, I thought that wasn't bad. Well, that wasn't bad, was it, Bob? I thought it was quite good.
My wife gets annoyed if I mess with her red wine.
Oh, all right.
So I've added fruit and lemonade to it. Now she's sangrier than ever.
Oh, good on you, Bob. I don't know what to do without your jokes. I was at a barbecue a number of years ago, and two women were talking absolute rubbish about another woman, another fellow neighbour who wasn't actually at this barbecue. And what they were saying was really harsh. It was private info that they couldn't possibly absolutely know for sure, and they actually had no business repeating. It was just really uncool. I asked, how do you know that? Well, it clearly wasn't the right question to ask, to which they both got a bit rattled and started talking about just how they knew. And I knew this other lady a little bit. She would come into my work occasionally, and as I recall, she was always nothing but kind and polite, and whatever else, it's just none of my business. So why are you talking about it like this? I inquired, and it was just shameful. Well, long story short, guess who never got invited to their barbecues anymore? Well, that would be me. And also the neighbour. I never saw her around very much either. But anyway, thank Rod for that. I want to say thank Rod. That's another story. I have to explain that to you sometime. Rod Stewart. Not my bag, witnessing people getting merry and argumentative and gossipy. None of my business, and I didn't have to witness it.
Winning.
Oh, shit, yes.
You said shit.
Yes, Bob. Even if what they were saying was true, none of any of our business. I just don't care. I really dislike gossip. It's harmful, it's mindless, and they just look like a couple of insane drunk monkeys. Sorry, monkeys, just an insult to monkeys, really. #TruthBombs. There is a sweetness about honesty, and by the same token, an awful feeling when you are being open and honest and you instinctively know you're not believed. It is a feeling that is quite, as I say, it's just really distinctive. In that moment, you know that they have some other information that they're measuring that up against, and they just don't believe you. I remember I was simply being my goofy self, and this woman was the mother of the boyfriend that I had at the time, decided that she couldn't bear me because she said I tried too hard. I was devastated when I overheard her saying that. I genuinely liked her, but she had her judgment in place. She believed that my cheerfulness was fake and disliked me for it. Never mind that I had happy kids, and that was simply just my standard. And as for me trying too hard, that was just embarrassing. I felt humiliated and honestly just so disappointed. Some people you can and will never impress, let alone have them like you. They will decide who you are, and that's that. She came around in later years, but by then she'd lost me. I had no reason to trust her, and it made not a difference to me if she approved of me or not. Those situations can just come right out of the blue, can't they, and feel like a kick to the stomach, and you're left feeling as to what just happened. I'll never know, but because it would mean the truth would have to be told, I doubt that it would ever be the truth. And ultimately, as you know, you just don't care ultimately, and whatever it is, dandy doodle, I say.
Oh, that sounds pretty awful.
Yeah, well, it was at the time, Bob. Came out of nowhere, as these ordinary situations often do. Looking back, I was particularly vulnerable at that time too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. The truth will not always be nice. Sometimes it is a direct hit to the heart. Sometimes it is something that we do need to wake up to ourselves about or know. We say we want the truth, and someone else's truth may be the last thing that, you can take. But in the long run, it is helpful to put certain pieces together if you're lucky enough, because often we never get all the pieces to situations that occur in our lives. Often we have to fill it in with probable data, which does not really add up to the truth, in order to have some shot at understanding odd situations that we, by no fault of our own, can get pulled into and may never fully understand. Sometimes you may be healing, and if you're going through a season of change, it may be a while until you can trust life again. It's okay if you're still learning to trust again and believe in better days. God, I know that one well. It can bite you from behind, and if we can know one thing, know that we don't have to know everything, but give ourselves the gift of kindness. That's right. That's right. Thank you very much. Good. Because there will be times when all of us go through phases in life when it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, that's the worst.
It is, Bob. And this too will pass. It always does. But, Bob, you're still going to make it through in your own time and pace.
Oh, thanks.
Truth bombs, if they contain information that allows you to see people in a way that you didn't know, these can be blessings, can be liberating. People you know that should not be in your life, should have been gone a long time ago. We all know that circumstance. One day it is time to just stop contact. Give me sweet, corny people any day, I say.
Some people are afraid to be corny.
Not me, Bob. I live life on the cob, baby. Sometimes we get hit with truth bombs that we drop in on ourselves. Like, we know on some level that we're ready to look at the truth, and we are ready to not make excuses for other people's bad behaviour or even our own behaviour, that we decide it is time to clean up our own act. And that day arrives, and not a day too soon, I say. My whole life changed, and not so long ago. There have been many moments of change in my life, as will have been in yours too, and I'm sure that you'll know what I mean. It's what happens in this human experience. I'm in my early 60s now, and you do not get off free at any age. If you're still breathing, you're still learning. I realised that I could be humble and calm and not tolerate disrespect and set solid boundaries to protect my energy. There are people out there who pretend to care about you and appear in your life just enough to remain in it. So what are you giving? And what are they giving? I'm all about empowerment, and when women want to do the work, they realise that this world is about abundance and we all shine in unique ways. So there is no point in hating. We only win when we lift one another up. When people who claim to be interested in you once a year never support you, I think many of these people, in a way, they're just waiting for you to fail, or they couldn't even care less, really. And so many are abusers. It's easier to gaslight you than actually make changes. So when you move ahead anyway, and they passive-aggressively say one of their one-liners, or worse, say nothing at all, these are truth bombs. Classic moves like you tell them something you want to implement in your life, a business, your podcast, something that's important to you, and they look at you and they say nothing. Change the subject completely as though you have said nothing. If it happens enough, it might not actually be their hearing, and they may feel like bombs are going off in your heart. It's like, here we go again. But the truth is, it can become a measuring stick, as in, if I have said something that is important to me and they choose to say nothing, then I know that I'm probably onto a winner. There's another truth bomb for you. But really, it is the gaining of wisdom. And wisdom, I have noted, does not necessarily come with age. It's lessons and it's experiences that we have learned in our daily life. If we don't learn our lessons, then that ignorance will be taken into our old age. Something I realised many moons ago, and that was, start listening to yourself when you're giving advice to others. More often than not, then there's a message in it for you too, because everything around you is a projection of your life. We have all this useful knowledge and wisdom, and so when we're giving advice, it is a perfect time to start implementing it into your experiences. Your advice is a resonant within you. It is, as we are the teacher, we are also the student. I've always loved that since the first time I've heard it. I hope it resonates with you too. So if, say, I was talking with one of my daughters about something that's bothering them, I always think, may it be cleared, healed, solved and released. The sounds of the words make a clearing in the mind, that it feels well on its way to being done and dusted. So as I'm talking to my daughter, advising her, I'm listening to my own advice. Do I need to look at that too? Do I need to take my own advice here? Everything in this life has a purpose. If we are able to meet that silence within ourselves, we will find a peaceful place to understand that this too will pass, and it will. And it does. I often find that place when I am wandering around my garden at any stage of any season. I look into that world and all that is happening or not happening and find a peace that is impossible to describe adequately. You might find that in a bath or a shower, local park, in your room, on holiday, at work. It's finding yourself where you are, and that is enough. I love that one single decision can pave the way to change. In this case with Truth Bombs, at any time you can cut off toxic relationships, take a trip to where you've always wanted to go, throw out clutter, go get your driver's license, or any of these is a single decision. If something's not working, change it. Measure results, measure your growth. Bloody love doing that. Measure your health, and remember, whatever habits you are rooted in will determine how far you will go. I remember reading about Your New Life Will Cost You Your Old Life by Brianna West. This is not word for word, but it is along the lines of this. For a time you will appear to lose your sense of direction and comfort zone. Interestingly, the changes come because you're no longer comfortable. I think it is more habit than comfort in the end. It's going to cost you friends, possibly family members, but it doesn't matter because your people who are meant for you will be there on the other side of all of this. You'll build a new comfort zone around the things that actually move you forward instead of being understood. You'll be seen. Instead of being liked, you'll be loved. All you're going to lose is what was built for a person you no longer are. Love it. Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, Bob. Woke up and chose me. I love this lane.
Unreal banana peel.
Bottom line, sometimes losing people makes you find yourself. It sort of makes you. And for that, I am truly grateful. Being self-caring and self-compassionate is so important in this life, especially when you are embarking on empowering your life, getting rid of toxic people and such out of your life. Truth Bombs bring on life audits.
Oh, I like that. Life audits.
Yeah, me too, Bob. Disentangling ourselves from the physical and psychological barriers that keep us from making changes. After a while, it becomes a bit of a pleasant addiction, as though you're cleaning out a shelf one at a time. You just want to keep clearing and cleaning. The lightness of the results are well worth the peace that follows on from it. And me being in my 60s, I can say with surety and agree with C.S. Lewis. He says that you are never too old to set another goal or to dream another dream. As you get older, I can attest to that you just want to be surrounded by good people, people that are good for you, good to you and good for your soul. Friendly waves from the neighbours, a cute conversation with the owner of my favourite Chinese takeaway, a warm connection with strangers at the supermarket, a giggle with the petrol attendant, that lovely feeling of community. It's all good for your soul. Or days when I'm handing out free smiles. They're my soul work days. Challenging myself to smile at strangers. Not everyone appreciates that, but lots do. So much in life needs to be normalised. Self-care is one of them. Empowering one another is another. Life doesn't end at 23, and we need to stop acting like it does. And a quote from Vadim, Zeland, from Reality Transurfing. Your mental outlook should be as it would be if you already had what you want or are just about to receive it. Remember, the mirror materialises whatever is contained in your thoughts. And on this note, Marble Dwellers, it is time I shot through. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Oh, I did.
Great, Bob. Well, say good day to the family for me. Give the canary a whistle, and I'll see you next time, okay? All right then.
Bye. 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 Bye.